Hello and welcome to the Nidhika Bahl show, the Game of Life series. Today in the studio, I have with me a psychologist and a mental health professional using NLP, Deepti Kathpalia. Welcome, Deepti. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Nidhika. It's an honor. Thank you so much.
Deepti, would you like to share with my listener what is it that you really do and throw some light on, what does a mental health professional really do?
I would love to share that. So, I primarily work as a psychotherapist, a counselor, and a psychologist. And somewhere I use a lot of NLP to enhance a person's quality of life.
Nice. So, Deepti, what is unique about your work with your clients?
Nidhika, my uniqueness lies in the fact that empathy is the first skill that I use to connect with anybody. And I genuinely place myself in that person's shoes, age no bar. And that helps me understand that person's dilemmas and their conflicts so well that I can actually help them there and then. The shifts start happening the moment I get into their space.
Right.
And the person on the other side has to feel the connect. It doesn't have to be clinical. So I can't afford to be clinical as a psychologist and a mental health person. That doesn't work.
Right. So, how would you really describe your treatment style, Deepti?
It's mostly conversations and listening because as a listener, I'm understanding and I'm trying to go down into the deeper reverberations of that person's pain. Any person who's ailing wants to be heard.
Right.
That is the first thing. So if I am able to give that as a starting point, definitely a relationship has been established. And from there on, we talk and get into interventions. There are diverse interventions that you use for a person. Mostly it is conversations. There are many psychotherapy techniques that you can adopt there are some very complex cases in which techniques take longer than expected. So this is how generally the journey begins. And counseling is a profession, Nidhika, which takes a lot of time.
Right.
So time on my side and my patients plus the other person on the other side also has to have time at hand to be able to see the results. But there is a little challenge that I face, if I may say so,
Right.
that whenever I'm intervening and I'm actually dealing with a person, they are in a rush to get solutions. And I'm not here to give them solutions, but definitely empower them to see within that they have the solutions to their own problems.
Absolutely. So, Deepti, what kind of cases do you normally handle? I mean, what is like, obviously, people would walk to you for many reasons, but what are the, typical cases that you get these days?
Very typical cases these days, particularly, I'm getting is sexual molestation.
Oh,
Yeah, incest. I mean, it's hard to believe, but this is so rampant. Marital rape.
oh my God.
Children being privy to their mothers being abused sexually. Then I have a lot of behavioral cases coming up in young teenagers, particularly in young adults and young teenagers. A lot of behavioral problems cropping up because of conflicts within the family or one parent not being on the right track. Or
Right.
there is a disparity between the couple. Then I have a lot of cases where the lady is strayed or the husband has strayed, infidelity cases. So
Right.
these are 5 cases that I am actually encountering more than I ever have in the last, say, about 10 years that I've been into the field of counseling,
Right. Right.
strictly into the field of counseling.
Right. So, especially when dealing with cases like sexual molestation, right? Like there would
Yeah,
be a lot of bad memories associated with it.
yeah.
So, how do you handle that part?
The first 2 or 3 sessions, Nidhika, if I'm very honest, just go into the person trying to cry it out and talk it out and, hesitate. The first meeting is always a meeting of hesitation. They are trying to gauge how much should they reveal, how much should they talk about, how much should they tell. They continue to pretend. In the first session, it is more of pretense and playing
Right.
safe.
Right.
The first meeting is, in fact, the toughest.
Right. Of course.
Because
Yes.
that's where the relationship is either formed or it just dies its own death there.
Absolutely.
But usually, in my case, I'm very fortunate that it doesn't happen. There are one odd cases that have probably turned out to be like that, but 90% of my cases, we do go into the level 2 and the level 3. So, first meeting is a very hesitant meeting where the person is not able to open up. But in the second meeting and the third meeting, the details start pouring out. And there's a lot of emotional outbursts there. there is anger, there is crying, there is resentment. In fact, I usually give them a pen and a paper and I do a mandala therapy.
Okay.
So once the patient is a little calmer, you give them some colors and you give them some paper and a mandala and you tell them to spend their time just focused on that and do whatever they wish to do with that. This is for just one of the many things that one does.
Right.
And they usually take, say, about 15 to 20 minutes, and you have to just patiently sit there and watch what is going on. Because as NLP uses the terminologies, the kinesthetics and the visual giveaways are very, very profound and moving.
Right.
And I get very moved, but then I have to take a reality check in there and then control that I cannot let that affect me.
Right.
So their hands would tremble and the legs are shaking and they're resistant. And then touch is a very important thing. In my case, especially with young children and women, there's a little pat that I give them on the back to tell them that I'm there and don't worry, continue. So that communicates a lot of compassion is what, and
Right.
that is what they're looking for. So this is
Absolutely.
one of the many ways. Third meeting, you start looking at interventions as to how to first deal with it,
Right.
how to accept that certain thing has happened with you,
Right.
and how can you empower yourself so that next time they can take a stand or they can report to somebody around them, because they generally shy away. They don't
Yes.
talk about such things. 99% of the people, age no bar, who are being sexually abused or molested, they take it in themselves that it is their fault.
Oh, that's really sad.
99%, I'm at liberty to say that, feel that it was their mistake that they were made to go through this. They must have done something wrong. That is why this happened.
Quite incredible, I have to say, I mean, these things are something we hear in news and newspapers, but to hear that these cases are on a rise and at such a high level that, almost 30-40% of your cases are that,
Yeah,
it's,
about 35-40%
yeah,
cases are
it's
that.
very
Yeah.
sad to hear that. What about the
Yeah.
behavioral things? You also mentioned that sometimes children get impacted because of the way the parents are with each other. So, what is the age group of children that come to you?
They start from 11 and they go up to 25. Because till the age of 25, you're beginning to find your calling in your career, you're trying to settle down, yet you're not in that league where you can kind of foster families and stuff like that. So there is a slight graph that is growing in terms of maturity and responsibility, but there is also a counter conflict that is happening with boys and girls from a 20 to a 25 bracket, because there is a lot of transition taking place. They're stepping out into the world and they're experiencing goods and bads. So I would say from an 11 to a 25 is the average bracket in which I would include children and young adults.
Right.
And behavioral problems, say from 11 to 18, they are very profound, in which there is extreme aggression.
Right.
There is too much of acrimony for one parent or the other, or for an organization who tries to push them down or pull them down, or demand that a certain thing be done in a certain way.
Right.
But in my experience, I have seen that these children who come with problems, for example, of anxiety,
Right.
anxiety always is accompanied by depression. They come in a package deal.
100%.
So these are psychological health issues and they have a root cause. So that is the process that one needs to look into, that reach the root cause and find out where probably that thing may have cropped up from. So there is an inherent problem that is cropping up from a place A or because of an experience. So that has to be first sorted gradually. Now again, the whole deal is that it is a very time consuming and a very patient exercise. So children resist, because I have rarely come across children who are willing to come to a counselor or a therapist, because there are too many prejudices and biases.
Correct. Yeah.
And parents who do bring them to me come because they have given up on their child.
Yes.
And they're all in denial that they are the ones who are causing this pain to their children.
Yeah. No, I can understand that completely. So,
Yeah.
Deepti, when somebody comes to you with an existing mental health condition such as depression or anxiety, how do you approach that case typically?
Mental health concerns are very diverse, Nidhika. But for example, if we were to talk about anxiety and depression, so again, as I said earlier, I reiterate that that person is waiting to be heard. So he blabbers, it starts with that.
Right.
And many things disconnected start surfacing. And that is the skill that probably needs to be very sharp at my end, where I have to thread the entire conversation into something legible.
Right.
You understand? So that is a very, very profound experience because there are so many multiple things happening.
Right.
And depression doesn't happen because of one particular reason, it is because of a multiple reasons. And that is the time when that person is on the edge.
Yes.
That person is actually talking of death and dying. He's
Correct.
talking of darkness. He talks of sleep. I recently had a case just last week only. In fact, the therapy is still going on and he's getting better, fortunately. So, this child, again, 22-year-old young boy, an event manager, and he contacted me through somebody. Directly, he contacted me. If I may, I'll just take a minute to share this if you
Yeah,
have
yeah,
time.
yeah. Absolutely. Please do.
So this child contacted me, say around 8:30 in the night. A phone call came and he says, I want to talk to you. I said, what is it? He says, I'm standing on the window of my hotel room right now and I'm seeing traffic on the road and there are a lot of trucks and cars passing by and I just feel like standing there in the midst so that all of this ends.
Oh my God.
And for the next 25 minutes, Nidhika, he was crying. He was hysterical. He was mum. He was lost. I couldn't even imagine the child being in so much pain. And the tragedy was he was alone and he was in Mumbai. And I was sitting here and I wanted to just make sure that he wouldn't harm himself. That's where I used a lot of NLP. I shifted his state into something where he felt a little drowsy and he tried to sleep off.
Right.
Then I contacted his friends who were close by and I told them, I said, just be around. Don't hound on him. Don't stand on his head. Tomorrow morning, I would like to talk to him again. And from then onwards, there are days where there is no success, and there are days where there is phenomenal improvement that I've seen in him. So I'll be lying if I say that it's been a beautiful success story. No, there are days which push me down also because things sometimes do not work. They're not receptive enough.
Right. Right.
So it's been a process, continuous process. Sometimes we would talk for 3 hours together. And the deal here is, Nidhika, to keep him into a conversation continuously. Let him talk, 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 talk,
It's
talk,
basically
talk, talk.
keeping him mentally engaged and also allowing him to
Abs-
release whatever he's feeling
abs-
verbally, right?
absolutely.
And release some
Exactly.
energy there, right?
20 to 30% of your baggage, when it has been told, when it has been spoken, there is a release, there is a pressure that eases you. Then you
Absolutely.
start receiving because there is a space that is created wherein he is now more receptive to therapy,
Right.
where he is more receptive to suggestions coming his way. Prior to that, no. He was angry because he was sodomized. And he was sodomized when he was about 16 or 15. And he says he did not realize that when an abuse turned into pleasure for him. So that was so scary. And now
Of course.
the aftermath of the entire experience had started impacting him and his work. He was khatam. He was out and under absolutely. He said, I don't want to live. I want to die. And my worry was because in my previous experience, I've seen the perpetrators become the abusers and the subject. They have invariably been abused themselves. So
Right.
it's a cycle.
Of course.
You've been abused, then you become the perpetrator. And there's
Correct.
a fine line.
It's also the drama triangle, they call that in psychology, isn't it?
Yeah, the drama triangle, and the lines are so blurred that you do not realize when the other starts
Yes.
taking over.
Yes.
So I would say today, after 45 days of interventions, he is about 40% better, but not completely out.
Right. It's years of mental torture that he must have gone through. So it's going to take time.
And he's stuck. It's quicksand he's stuck in. Analogy I would give is that when you're in quicksand, if you flutter too much, you sink.
More. That's
So
right.
if you stay still, you just might drift to the shore. So
Right.
that's what I'm trying to tell him, amongst the many other things, amongst meditative techniques, amongst music therapy. There is something called a dance therapy. Then there is, of course, mandala. Then there's yoga. Then there is a certain food pattern that we have to incorporate.
Yeah.
There is a lot of resistance at every step.
So do you also put your, clients through medication at some point?
I'm not entitled for medications. I don't have the liberty because I'm not a psychiatrist, Nidhika. As a psychiatrist, because you are qualified MBBS doctor, and as a psychologist, that is a very fine line. I'm not authorized to prescribe medicines. However, in my experience, I do sometimes, in this case, like for short spells of say 14 to 15 day, 2-week capsules, I do give them evening primrose oil, which is a completely herbal product. and which actually is a magic potion, and it enhances a person's mental state to a large extent. So natural food products plus evening primrose oil. That is all I do.
Deepti, you also mentioned that, there are a lot of cases of infidelity. Obviously, a lot of divorce cases as a result as well. Correct?
Yeah, divorce cases. In fact, right now at this point in time, I have 3 cases who are struggling to just, take a call. Karna hai ki nahi karna hai. They're
Correct.
not
But
able to take a call whether they should divorce or should continue.
right. So in such cases, the children who are there in the family, do you recommend that, kids be put into therapy even if they don't have any signs of any disturbance, because they may be picking up energies at home, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, that is the first thing that should be taken into cognizance. And then, of course, one of the partners who's been betrayed. So, parallel treatments for both have to continue.
Right.
Parallel.
Right.
Otherwise, one takes precedence over the other, and the other person just starts slipping into the dark spots. And in this case, one of the betrayed partners is also as vulnerable as that little child out there, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So both have to be given treatment together at the same levels simultaneously.
Makes a lot of sense because, otherwise what will happen is the parent who's been betrayed will also take out their frustration on the children, and then they're dealing with that negative energy as well. And they obviously don't know, what they're going through, why they're going through it.
Yeah, the parent actually loses rationale and he starts using the children against the
Also
other spouse.
manipulate the other partner, right?
Absolutely, and they mar them further. And the children, for fear of losing the second parent as well, kind of complies.
Right, right,
And
right.
that is such a sad thing because then the children also learn to become manipulative themselves in later years. And they know that relationships can go wrong, they go awry. And for them, then the lessons picked up from their parents' interactions and their parents' immaturity at handling such a rift is
Yes.
something that puts them away for life. They're gone.
Yeah, and that
So
becomes the
that's
foundation of their relationship. So obviously, it's like on a shaky ground, so they will collapse as well.
Yeah, and they will hop from one relation to
Yes.
another. They do that. And they start spying. I know of a case where these twin boys were spying on their mother.
Oh my God.
They were spying, mind you, and they had intimate, gaudy conversations of the mother with her paramour. And they shared it with me. They showed me the letter. It was aghast. 13-year, 12-year-old boys shouldn't be reading all that nonsense, but they did. And not a single emotion on their face of remorse or anything like that.
Hmm. Hmm. So, Deepti, is there a way, obviously, depression and anxiety and all of these things are on a rise, and people are dealing with very tough situations these days, because again, the way the society is today, the way the relationships are today, the pressures of work and multiple things, parenting, whatever.
Yeah,
So, is there a
yeah.
way to kind of, figure out or identify that somebody is going down that path so that if they know that, I have these symptoms, then maybe it's time to go look for a psychologist and sort it out even before it gets really, really bad.
There is, and that is the need of the hour because society is undergoing a major transition. So,
Right.
turmoils are that many more, and professional help must be sought ASAP. And everybody has to be told that please keep on a lookout for these signs, even a small sign of bedwetting in a child or crankiness or appetite changes, for
Right.
example. These are very simple to look for symptoms.
Yes, yes.
So, for all you know, there may be nothing, but there is also a possibility that it is kind of a buzz for something more serious down there. So, address it there and then.
Right. So, Deepti, on that note, I would really like you to share. I'm sure a lot of people after listening to this podcast would like to get in touch with you and just, maybe find out what's the process, what's the treatment plan, how many sessions, counseling, all of that. So, is there a way that they can reach out to you?
Yeah, yeah. In fact, there are two telephones that I operate from. One is 7042734717, and the other number is 7636836106. And my email ID is teepti dot Kathpalia, that is Kathpalia PALIA 1969@gmail.com.
Deepti, thank you so much for sharing your details. I'm sure a lot of people would like to get in touch with you because there's a prejudice against this topic. And if someone has access to somebody good, they will want to get in touch. And I'm quite certain that a lot of people will be benefited with your details. But before I let you go from the studio today, I would just like to, ask you, is there anything, one final tip or some message you'd like to leave the audience with, that how critical mental health is in their winning the game of life and why focus on it?
Yes, this is the most important thing for you all to take note of at all points in time, be it yourself or your loved ones, because your knowledge of just the fact that there is something that the person may gain from if there is an intervention will hold you in very good stead. Within your family, the deeper you connect with each other, even 10 minutes of meaningful communications with each other in the family will be the deal breaker. So just be in contact with each other, talk to each other, drop gadgetry, and be present. 10 minutes of your time with each other is all that it takes.
That's an incredible advice, Deepti, and I
It's
know,
as simple as that, Nidhika.
and I know it works because it works for us. So I'm sure it'll work for everybody else. So thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you so much.
Nidhika, it has been an absolute pleasure, believe you me. And for you, a big hug because you allowed me to say some things that probably some people out there might benefit from because we are there to help out. Please reach out
Absolutely.
to us. Not to me, there are so many around you. You just have to look and knock because all of us are ailing from some kind of a problem up there and we just need to talk to get it sorted.
Right,
That's
right.
all.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you guys for listening to us today. I'll be back soon with another incredible guest. So hang in there. See you soon. Bye bye.